Hello and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we review horror movies and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Alex. Today we will be making a drinking game for Ouija, directed by Stiles, who is also the writer for movies such as The Possession, Boogeyman, and for the Proud Family movie. Yeah, that last one's a bit odd. The movie is written by White and Juliet Snowden, who is also a writer for both The Possession and The Boogeyman, but I guess she wasn't good enough to be a writer for the Proud Family movie.
After consulting with a Ouija board one night, Debbie realizes that she is in way too deep and has made communication with a dead girl named Doris. Her best friend Lane finds out in heartbreaking fashion that Debbie does not want to hang out with her anymore, as she is now hanging with her ghost friends instead. Desperate for answers, Lane gets her friends to tag along and use a spirit board to answer questions that she has in regards to Debbie. Meanwhile, Lane's friends are seemingly killed off one by evil spirits that they have made contact with.
Spoilers for Ouija start now, so if you've not yet seen the movie, take our drinking rules posted on screen now and use them to play the drinking game of your own, and come back when you are done. With that out of the way, let's move on to the rules for Ouija.
First rule obviously being death, and this gave us 5 sips this time around.
So the deaths were fairly PG. There's basically no blood, and I'd say it's fairly obvious at this point it was made for a PG-13 audience.
Yeah. And it's also worth mentioning that we did count Doris as a death because she was mentioned by Paulina of like how she died.
Yeah.
We didn't actually see it happening, but it was mentioned by Paulina and the news actually. Mm-hmm. So that's why we counted it.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the next rule, which is screams, cries, or yells. And if any of these are heard or seen, you take a sip, which came to a total of 15.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit lower than average, but not too bad either way. Not much to say for this rule, so we'll just move on to rule number 3, which is whenever a jump scare occurs. And this happens 14 times in the movie.
Yep, I'd say they're not great and pretty cheap.
Oh yeah.
It's basically just people just sneaking up on other people. They're all like fake outs.
Yeah, they're not great by any means. They are all very easy and cheap jump scares that they can just use to try and get a quick scare out of somebody.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
Rule number 4 is whenever you see a Ouija board, you take a sip. This came to a total of 12 sips.
Not much else to say on this rule. It's pretty straightforward. You see the board, you take a drink. So we'll move on to rule number 5. It's whenever hi friend is said or written in text. And this happens 8 times in the movie.
Yeah, this is, I'd say, pretty much only in the beginning of the movie, and that's really it.
Yeah.
But it was quite a few times. 8, right?
Yep, it happens a good amount of times, and yeah, not in the end though, just in the beginning to middle, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. The next rule that we have is whenever you see spirits, you take a sip. This came to a total of 11.
Yeah, another pretty straightforward rule. It's whenever you see the spirits, like there's nothing else to say on it. So we'll move on to rule number 7. This rule is whenever Doris is mentioned, and this only happens 6 times in the movie.
Doris Sander. DZ, this is her.
This is where Lane is tricked into thinking that Doris is good by Paulina, saying that, oh, she was a good girl, she was just trying to protect us from Mother, and all this and that.
And yeah, we learned that Mother was actually trying to protect everyone from Doris, because she was the bad one. And I feel like that whole scene with Paulina was strictly in there just to try and give Lin Shaye some screen time.
Oh, definitely.
Which I think was about 6 minutes.
I haven't seen the trailers, but I'm assuming that she was heavily in the trailers and probably a big part of the movie.
Yeah.
Especially from like her hit films such as Insidious was around this time.
Yeah.
So she was in Insidious, and then they gave her 6 minutes of screen time to probably put in the trailers, take her paycheck and peace out.
Yeah.
That's my guess anyways.
Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Like, she was obviously great in her role. I love seeing Lin Shaye in movies. But oh my god, yeah, they tried to milk it.
Yeah, it wasn't needed for the plot, let's say.
Not at all, no. Moving on to the next rule, we have whenever white eyes are seen, you take a sip, and this came to a total of 6 sips.
Yeah, again, a rule that doesn't happen all that much, but it's pretty obvious when it happens. It kind of just shows that they're being possessed at the time. I feel like it's done better in the sequel. We'll get to that when we look at that movie, though, but I don't know, it wasn't that effective in this movie.
Oh, yeah. In the sequel, it's, I'd say, a lot scarier, to say the least.
Moving on to rule number 9, it's whenever Debbie is mentioned, and this gave us 14 sips.
Where's Debbie?
Oh, I think she's running late.
So Debbie indirectly brought him into this mess with the Ouija board being left out and telling Lane about it. But I'd say she's not really to blame all that much, since Lane was the one that got them all to play with it, right?
Even after kind of knowing that that was the cause
Yeah.
of her death. Maybe the first time she got them gathered up to play, she didn't know that it was the cause. But after the first time, it should have been kind of obvious that they should not be playing with this board.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So, yeah, stupid decision.
And let's move on to the final rule for this drinking game, which is whenever paranormal activity occurs, you take a sip. And this came to a total of 10 sips.
Yeah, things slowly move. It kind of feels like a Paranormal Activity movie sometimes because of this happening. And this was even a rule that we used for the Paranormal Activity franchise. So, yeah, not much else to say on that. So we'll just move right into the totals for this movie. The total number of sips came to 101, which is equivalent to drinking 3.5 standard 12-ounce cans based on our 30-sip per can scale.
I think drinking for this movie was relatively fine. There wasn't anything too notable. Obviously, we saw patterns of seeing a Ouija board, jump scares, scream cries or yells, and seeing spirits occasionally.
Yeah.
And paranormal activity, I think, more than that, though.
Yeah, like, it wasn't too hard to get through. 3.5 is pretty... I think it's a low average on our channel. But, yeah, it's easier one to get through overall.
Yeah. So one of my problems with the movie is the plot felt very convenient and jumbled at times.
Yeah.
So one example is Lane gets to look after the house that her best friend just hung herself in like days prior.
Yeah.
And I feel like nobody's... Like, I guess there's some people, but I don't think my parents would ever get another teenager to look after their house, especially... I think they're just going on vacation.
Well, especially after the daughter or
hung
their best
herself.
friend and daughter just died. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like you said, it's just a plot convenience for her to be in the house where her friend died. And, yeah, I don't know. It was just... That's kind of how the whole movie is, though, with plot conveniences and stuff.
Yeah.
And another strange choice by the parents, I'm assuming, is they put the Christmas lights back in Debbie's room. The Christmas lights she used to hang herself is what they put back in her room.
Back in her room.
It doesn't make any sense.
So going off of all the characters were super one-dimensional.
Oh, yeah.
So you see this in very common horror movies that just kind of want a cheap bang for your buck, such as like even Friday the 13th does it a lot. Like good guy boyfriend, rebel little sister, red herring boyfriend, plot that they probably dropped in the movie, or like skeptical random girl. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like especially in ghost movie, you can see this a lot. But
Oh, yeah.
they're just like throw dart on a board. What do we get?
That's your character. And
That's your character.
You just have to stick to that one single character trait. Yeah.
Yeah, relation, and then like small thing about him, like quirky, stoner, good guy, or like
the
rebel.
stereotype.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just a stereotype dartboard.
Yeah, and you mentioned how the characters were the one-dimensional and kind of just, you see it in quick cash grab movies. And it's the same thing with jump scares. Like, the jump scares in this movie, we said that they were bad, and, like, they're not that effective. Like, there's the hand in the vehicle. It almost looked like Titanic. They just weren't effective, and it again goes along with the quick cash grabs. And I guess just furthermore going into how this is just a quick cash grab, it's just a movie that's completely void of any originality. This movie was made during the whole, like, you know, ghost and possession craze that's been going on, you know, with Conjuring and Insidious, stuff like that. James Wan's to thank a lot for that. But it's just teens that summon evil spirits, and then some of them die. It's the same old story. We don't see anything new or fresh with this movie. It's all just the same.
Yeah, everything they do in the movie doesn't really add growth to their character either, which is another thing that I have a problem with. So I think my biggest problem with that is when all their friends are dead at the end of the movie, they're at the exact same spot where they were basically like 3 weeks ago, when none of them were dead. So they basically just killed all their friends for like no reason, and there was a way to control that. Like they didn't learn anything, they didn't get any lessons.
Yeah, like they could have tried to add something interesting, like maybe the mother dying, and then I don't know, they could have done something, but it just goes absolutely nowhere. And I don't know. I feel like the sequel does cover a lot of these topics a lot better.
Yeah. So one thing that I can think of for like going somewhere, for example, what I would have added into the movie was at the very end of the movie you see Debbie, and it just kind of like is a facepalm like moment for the audience. Like, Lane didn't get any closure. She just sees Debbie defeat, like, an evil ghost.
Yeah, Debbie helps get the ghost away
Yeah.
or whatever.
And, like...
even though Debbie is a ghost herself.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Like, they would try to contact her, and she finally comes. Convenient, right, Debbie?
Yeah.
But anyways, they try to contact her. Do all this time, nothing happens. She finally comes in the end when all of her friends are basically dead at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But in a movie where it's done good, such as Annabelle 3, where... the one main character gets to talk with her mom at the end through Lorraine. Lorraine says, like, oh yeah, she's doing good, she's happy for you, something like that. Or her dad, sorry.
Yeah, dad.
But none of that really happens in this movie, so she doesn't get closure, anything like that from Debbie's death.
Mm-hmm.
Just her friends are died, nobody learns any lessons,
Yeah.
except she has, like, significantly less friends now.
Yeah.
But yeah, in saying that, the movie was very one-dimensional.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was nothing special, and like we said, it's just completely unoriginal.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we've gone into it a little bit, but what are your overall thoughts on this movie?
My overall thoughts is Blumhouse probably just tried to shit out a generic script and leave with like millions of dollars.
Just what happened.
Is what exactly happened, yeah. They were like, oh, teenagers can recognize things like a Ouija board. Yep, we'll use that. Spooky things like white eyes, we'll add those in the trailers. And like they didn't really put any thought behind it after that.
Exactly. I don't know. I found myself getting extremely bored throughout this whole movie. It was hard for me to stay engaged and actually pay attention to what's going on in the film. Like, I did sit through it for the sake of making a video for it.
Yeah.
But it was hard, to say the least. And I would be happy to not watch this movie again, to be honest. It was just boring to me.
Yeah, just everything in the movie was super generic. Like, they tried cheap jump scares, bad script, bad acting, and they were just like, teenagers are gonna eat this shit up because there's a Ouija board and spooky eyes in it. So we're just gonna throw it out in theaters and we're gonna make millions of dollars and it's gonna suck, but we're gonna be rich.
Yeah.
And who's the idiots? We're the idiots because we buy it on DVD to watch it for a fucking channel. God damn it. Speaking of idiocracy, let's move on to the award ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee, the Darwin Award. This award goes out to a character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have been easily avoided. This award can also be given out to a character that is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is Debbie, for playing with the Ouija board alone. The main reason why she is on here is because even herself as a child knew not to play with one alone.
Lane is the other nominee today because she lured her friends into playing with the Ouija board not once, but twice, and getting over half of them killed.
And the winner is Lane, for wanting to play with the Ouija board despite her friends mysteriously dying after playing with one.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our look into a Ouija. If you ended up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any other feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know in the comments what the biggest problem you had with the movie was.
Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss Friday's episode, where we are going to be making a drinking game for the superior sequel, Ouija, Origin of Evil. If you want to check out our most recent video, click on the box on the top right. Or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.